Welcome. My name is Mohammed. I'm one of the RadCast co-founders, and welcome to Module 3, Part 3 of our Clinical Radiology 2021-2022 application overview. This is the most juiciest one, I think, for all of you guys, because it all stems around the self-assessment and portfolio station, the one you guys love to get your hands on. Like I said, all we're going to be covering in this is self-assessment and portfolio station. If you want to know about the other elements of the application, check out the other 3 modules within this 4-part series, because we've split up our talk into each component just to make it easier for you guys, and then you don't have to get bored to death listening to my voice. Just be grateful you're not having to endure my ugly face as a video, okay? Like, I'm trying to spare you guys that embarrassment. So, the self-assessment and portfolio station for the last 2 years has now been done online via Oriel. This was pretty much as a result of the COVID pandemic. Accelerated this change. It may have been something that they've been planning for a while, but COVID made it a accelerated feature that started in 2020, 2021 and was used again in 2021, 2022. We think it's going to be a recurring theme because it's kind of made life easier for the assessors. It's all done on Oriel. Done after you've submitted your application, not during your application process. You're asked to score yourself against 5 domains, which we'll cover very shortly. Then you are given time to submit supporting evidence of your achievements. For example, the audit certificates, your research publications, your taster week letter or certificate. Basically, submit all that you have, and then the assessors will review each of your evidence and then give you a score, which is your verified portfolio station score. So the 5 portfolio domains in the 2021-2022 cycle were research into a career in radiology, exceptional undergraduate training, additional degrees and postgraduate medical qualifications, clinical governance, audit and quality improvement as a postgraduate. Very key. Not as an undergraduate, not as an undergraduate and postgraduate, just as a postgraduate. Teaching, research and academic publications, which can include undergraduate and postgraduate. So there were 2 marks for each domain, max 10 marks, which is then scaled to 20 marks for your verified portfolio self-assessment, and those 20 marks are then used towards your ranking, where a third of your final rank is from your portfolio self-assessment. So it's kind of bread and butter portfolio domains. It's not as militant and rigorous as other applications, for example, core surgical training, internal medicine training, the other subspecialties like neurosurgery, ophthalmology. But it's fair in our opinion. Like, these are like things that really are expected of you as a postgraduate doctor. And of course, the earlier you start, the more easier it is to develop all these things under your CV and get them for your portfolio. Now, in terms of the portfolio self-assessment, a few technical elements to be aware of. Once you submit your own self-assessment score, you can't change it. It's not like, oh crap, wait a minute, I've just found this audit that I remember doing back as an F1. Too late, all right? It's done. You've submitted your evidence. Now, hey-ho, it's left for the assessors to decide. Only completed achievements count. Now, let's be honest, this isn't rocket science. I could say I'm doing a PhD and I'm in year 1 of my PhD. Give me PhD points. Well, I haven't done a PhD. What if I drop out of that PhD after I get my training number? Like, they've put this specific element in to stop people cheating the system. Not gaming the system, because you should game the system, but don't cheat the system. So don't be like, oh, I'm doing a master's degree. Oh, so they give you master's point and then you drop out. All right? Only a completed achievements count. Now, this is a bit nuanced when it comes to the research section, which I'll briefly cover here. Publications in press, for those of you that don't know what that means, basically means your research has been accepted for publication, but it's not being published yet. The peer reviews have said, top work, great job, we love it, you're the best thing since sliced bread, but we're not going to publish it just yet. We're going to save it for the February edition of our journal of RadCast et al. All right. So you've got a publication, but it's not being published. That counts. In press articles do count. But other things, for example, I've got to post a presentation in March and the deadline for your evidence was December, that won't count, okay? Because you haven't presented your poster yet. Overclaiming is a big no-no. You have to be within the limits of the scoring criteria. Don't be like, I'm currently doing this amazing research project, and then you submit a letter which doesn't really back up your claims. I did this in my audit, I did that in my audit, and then your certificate says none of that. Don't overreach beyond your limits, because it becomes a probity issue. Your application can be thrown out, and it's clear cut, so it's fair game that they could also refer you on to GMC for probity issues because you're just clearly lying. You can claim achievements in multiple domains apart from the audit and quality improvement section. What do I mean by that? Well, it says very clearly for the 2021, 2022, and we think we don't see any reason why it change, where you can't claim a presentation for an audit in the research domain. And you'll see what I mean when I go into the research domain marks. So if you are claiming an audit presentation in the research, you can't use that same audit as evidence of having done an audit QI project. You'll have to submit a different audit or QI project for the audit domain or vice versa. Okay, so just something to be aware of. But things like teaching, that's evidence of showing commitment to a career. And also you can, if you've done like regional teaching, you can get teaching marks as well. If you've done a master's in teaching, that is also good for the teaching domain to get full marks, but also you can use that as an additional degree. It's just the audit and QI section and the research section that can't overlap, and you'll see what I mean. So let's start off with the first domain, research into a career in radiology. You can read the breakdown of the marks for yourself. I want to give you overall tips and tricks based upon what you need to do. So if you don't have a taste a week, what are you doing? Legit, what are you doing? This is the bread and butter. Without taste a week, you are not even eligible for 1 point. Genuinely, you're not. 3 days is nothing. It doesn't have to be consecutive. It doesn't have to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It can be Monday, week 1, Tuesday, week 2, and Wednesday, week 3. But please aim for 5 days. One of the reasons we say this is this 3 days may have been as a result of COVID, where they understood it's hard to get into the department. So let's reduce the number of days, but just get a taste a week. For those of you in F1 who don't have study leave per se, which is entirely trust dependent where you work, get it ready for when you go into F2, because asking for study leave is difficult with your rota commitments. So the earlier you can get it in, the more likely it'll be approved. But a taste a week is only enough for 1 point. To get 2 points, full marks, which is like easy, all of you should get 2 marks. You need additional portfolio evidence of radiology. So these could be radiology related projects like research, QI, teaching, publications. But try and tailor your stuff towards radiology. What does that mean? Well, anything with imaging. If you've done an orthopedic project that looked at neck and femur fractures, hey ho, throw in some x-rays and it's now linked to radiology. Budding neurosurgeon or neurologist, done some epilepsy related projects or some tumor related projects, then once again get some imaging in and you can start to change the narrative towards radiology. There is really nothing to stop you getting 2 marks, but you need that taste a week. So what is our advice to getting as many marks as possible? Number 1, taste a week, like I've said, and I'm going to reiterate, I'm going to hit it hard so it gets into your skulls. Then you can do courses. This is a very elegant way of showing commitment. We have our RadCast course. I'm not going to sell you anything. If you're interested, please get in touch. We made it with our own sweat, blood and tears and out of love for our interest in radiology, because we know it can be a difficult subject to grasp, but also we want to help you with your applications as well. So we show you what a career in radiology is like from a trainee all the way up to a consultant. Obviously, there are other courses. Red Dot is another example. Conferences, you have many abound, but once again, it's about early prep because the abstract windows goes very quickly for these. If you're not aware, try and present at a conference rather than just attending a conference. So obviously, you got the big ones like the Royal College of Radiologists, Other include, and a big shout out to the Society of Radiologists in Training. Then we have IR juniors who are doing conferences and doing really good work as well. So big up to them. But try and have like a Word doc or a piece of paper where you have all these big conferences and you know when to expect them, because their dates are pretty much the same. And now with everything being virtual, there's no real reason why you shouldn't submit something. Then of course do some audits. If you're struggling with audit ideas, RCR Audit Live Templates, they've done the work for you. Great resource to try and find a quick audit to do. Get publications, we'll come into that in a bit. Prizes, we have the RadCast prizes with our crash course and with our application course. People think, oh, I can't apply because so many people apply. You'll be surprised as how many people apply and how few it can be. So your chances are quite good. So why not just stick something in there and fingers crossed. If you're a medical student watching this, hello, nice to see you. Try and get an elective in clinical radiology. Most electives end up being a nice holiday, but if you can get an elective in radiology, get the RCR bursaries for your elective, then once again, your portfolio is starting to go from strength to strength. And of course, teaching. Most of us teach anyway, like we do teaching as part of our mandatory portfolio requirements. So just make it radiology related. It's not really that hard. Like, for example, if you are a respiratory trainee and you want to switch to radiology, which is obviously the way forward, do a talk on the role of CTPA in pulmonary embolism, COVID changes on chest x-ray and CTPA. Genuinely, it's not hard to kind of have crossover so your current supervisors in a non-radiology post don't get suspicious of what you're trying to do. Okay, which once again, just a throw out there, please don't step on anyone's toes. Keep it to yourself until, touch wood, you get your training number, then declare it to the world. So qualifications, once again, this is like the additional degrees type of element. It's very self-explanatory, apart from one little bit which I kind of want to focus on, which is this MRCS, MRCP. Now, it's very specific in the sense that to get full marks, you need to either as an F1 or as an F2, so within 2 years of qualifying as a doctor, and I'm giving a shout out to my international medical graduate bros within this chat, our IMG colleagues, because it's specified depending upon when you've graduated, not when you've started necessarily working in the NHS. Okay, so don't be like, oh well, I only started working my NHS this August, so now I can still get 2 marks if I sit the part 1 of MRCP or the part A of MRCS. No, it's within the number of years you've graduated. So if you're an F1, F2, so basically 2 years within graduation of becoming a doctor, well done. You have to either have part 1 or part A. Okay, that will get you full marks in this domain. Let's say you've now seen the light and decided to do an F3 year and gone to sunny Australia or beautiful New Zealand. You're like, okay, I have my part A. What do I get now? It's now 1 out of 2 marks. To get full marks after 2 years post-graduation, you need to have the full MRCS or full MRCP. Okay, so just to clarify, within 2 years of graduating, full marks if you have part 1 of MRCP or part A of MRCS. After 2 years of graduating, to get full marks, you need to have the full MRCS and full MRCP to get the points. All right. The rest is very clear in terms of first class intercalated degrees. Master's degree, by the way, is considered full marks. And then prizes. Okay. Now prizes, once again, I want to make it clear. Prizes for best dressed in the Liverpool MedSoc competition is not going to be necessarily qualification point. All right. Typically, it's very much awarded to clinical type of prizes, like top scoring candidate in the anatomy section of the MCQ exam or whatever, top scoring OSCE candidate. But it needs to be very specific. Like the certificate must state that you won this prize as a medical student because of X, Y, and Z. All right. So, for example, for those of you with honors degrees, you may be like, okay, what do I need to do? You need your university to give you some type of letter with letterheaded paper saying that you got honors degree because you were in whatever. So, for example, me, I got, and this is not a humble brag. I'm just giving you an example before everyone's like, oh wow, Mohammed's showing off. I graduated with honors at Liverpool Medical School. Now, for my cohort, that meant I was in the top 10% of my year group. So to be eligible for a prize, I need to have that in writing because other medical schools give distinctions or honors for other criteria. Now, you may say, okay, so what if it's the top 20%? Does that count as a prize? There is a bit of assessor discretion as to what counts as a prize. But national prizes, international prizes do count. So if you're a medical student, once again, please have a go. Submit something to our crash courses because why not? You may win and you're now one step closer to getting full marks in the additional degrees because this is quite a difficult section to get marks in, unless you're aware of the criteria. So clinical governance, postgraduate, QIP, and audit. One thing, like I said, I want to reiterate, only as a postgraduate does this count. Undergraduate audits, undergraduate quips don't count at all. All right? So don't necessarily get bogged down with this as a med student. Maybe prepare audits that you can do as a foundation year 1 doctor or as an FY2. Get stuff ready for when you graduate, that is. But things as an undergraduate won't necessarily count. So try and focus on the other domains if you're a med student listening in. So full marks, as you can see, you can read for yourself, is specified based upon 2 elements. Number 1, you've done more than 1 project a year. So what does that mean? So if you're an FY2 applying, they would expect you to have done at least 1 audit. Now the thing is, you guys have to do this as part of your ARCP anyway. So this is like bare necessity anyway. So why not just shift it towards radiology? And number 2, you've had to present one at a regional, national, international level, basically at a conference. If you present within your department, that's a local presentation. That's not regional. If you then present, let's say, for example, at the Northwest Conference, that becomes a regional conference. So you have to have done more than 1 a year, and you need to have presented at least 1 at a regional, national, international level. Now, one thing to be aware of, nowhere does it say that it has to be a radiology audit. So don't get bogged down with having to find off very specific radiology audits. You can do things like Ottawa ankle rules because you're an A&E placement at the moment, or you're maybe an A&E trainee, or you're an ortho trainee. That still counts. But it has to be more than 1 a year and you've presented it somewhere. And also it's a closed audit loop. If you don't know what that means, just a brief overview. We are preparing an audit type of course modules that basically gives you a lowdown about how audits work. A closed audit loop basically means you've identified an intervention to improve adherence to clinical standards based upon guidelines like NICE guidelines. And then you've re-audited, you've done the audit cycle again to see if your intervention has made a change, hopefully a positive change. That's closing the audit loop. Now, with those large group audits, like for example, Star Surge, those type of audits, you have to be a bit careful because whilst you may have made a contribution in terms of data collection, you may have not met the criteria for full marks because you've not led the project. You're just a collaborator per se that's providing data, and you've not necessarily made recommendations for change because that's done at an organizational level. Once again, you just collected data. So perhaps either speak with the organizers of those large audits and ask for clarification, or try to make your life easier and just do your own local audit and then get that presented at a regional, national, international level. Teaching. Now, teaching, once again, you can read the criteria for yourself. For full marks, you need a teaching qualification. PG Cert is an example, but it could be PG Dip or Masters, maybe even a PhD if you've gone all that level. Or you've made a major contribution at a regional, national, level, or finally, you're a member or a fellow of the Academy of Medical Educators, or an associate or a fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Now, often when you do a degree, like a PG Cert, PG Dip, you often get membership to one of these esteemed faculties. So they kind of work together. However, you can develop a portfolio towards membership or associateship of these faculties as well. So often if you've done a degree, you've automatically got it after some application process. But please note, it's not the end of the world if you don't have these teaching degrees. You can develop your own portfolio. It just takes a bit more time to develop a sufficient portfolio to get the membership or an associateship of these very noble education like academies and educators, academy of medical educators. Now, the middle point is this major contribution to a regional national teaching program. Most of you have done probably bedside teaching or local presentations. That doesn't count. But you can be a bit clever. So for example, if you're based in a hospital trust that has medical students from multiple regions, you could use that to show regional teaching. If you're in a trust that gets medical students from across a region, if you get them all together, get the feedback that says I am from this university, and then the other person says I'm from another university in another region, that can count. But that is the requirements for 2 points. Most of the time, most candidates fall into the 1 point category. We can help you get 2 points with some of the programs that we have. Once again, I'm not going to sell you guys anything. We want to help you guys, but please do get in touch if you're interested in our national/international teaching program. We love to have you guys. We've got so much great feedback from the students who've listened and watched your content. Listen, we've been like overwhelmed with some of the stuff you guys have produced, like amazing content. And at the end of the day, if it helps you guys, then we feel proud of ourselves in helping you guys get a training number in radiology. Research and academic publications, a thing that from our experience, I don't know what it is about publications with medics. Like, it's always the case that everybody works so hard for these 2 points and completely misses the whole point of the portfolio. Like, we always find that applicants run towards trying to do a publication, and then when we ask them, have you got other things like a taster beak, they're like, no. We're like, well, why? This domain, alongside additional degrees, is one of the hardest because it takes the most input and investment to get an end result. For example, if you look at the criteria, at 2 points, you've done a PhD. All right, that's 3 years of your life. All right, or like an MD, 2-year MD. So let's be honest, you're not going to be like, oh, I've not done a PhD. It's now August of application time. Let's go off and do one. Like, you're not going to do that, and you shouldn't do that. Or you need to have a first authorship in 2 or more peer-reviewed publications, or co-author in more than 2 peer-reviewed publications. A few things I want to clarify. Number 1, they don't have to be radiology related. It just has to be peer-reviewed publications. Number 2, co-author means second author and beyond. First author, it means your number 1. Co-author means second author and beyond. Some journals allow for joint first authors. If you are, please clarify. You need that in writing. Otherwise, if it's not clear, you may be considered a second author. All right. So, first authorship or even co-authorship in 2 or more, that takes a significant amount of input. Like, the peer review process is not typically very short. We're talking weeks, with the risk that the peer reviewers go, number 1, we don't like your publication, we don't think it's suitable, reject it. So what are you going to do with that publication now? Like, it's just going to gather dust on your laptop. Or number 2, they say, yeah, we like it, but it's not suitable just yet, you need some amendments. So you have to go back. And then it goes back through peer review again. So you're having to use a lot of time, not just only to write a manuscript, but also to then wait for peer review. Like, genuinely, if you can't get these publications, don't stress, relax, focus on the other portfolio elements. Now, one thing you can do is focus on presentations. Try and get as many conferences. because one of the things is that some conferences do publish the abstracts in their peer review journals. And as of now, for the 2021-2022 portfolio criteria, that counted as a publication. So you could work strategically to kill two birds with one stone in that element. But please, like I said, don't stress about this domain. Genuinely just go, okay, I'm going to get 0. I can try for 1, get a presentation, but I'm going to go smash the other portfolio domains. Or honestly, just make up the marks in your MSRA. Like, that's all you need to do. Please don't get bogged down with this one. I don't get why medics love to. I think it's the prestige associated, or false prestige in my opinion, and probably your opinion, with coming off with peer-reviewed publications. It's not the end of the world if you don't have any. Just be strategic in your application process. So this is the third module done. Probably the longest one that we're going to record, because there's a lot to go over. But if you need any support, if you need anything clarified, please get in touch. It's hello@radcast.co.uk. Our socials are there. Please slide into our DMs at any point that you like. We'll gladly reply. And we look forward to seeing you in the other modules. Take care, guys.